Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming here today in order for us to present you with our presentation. A request for quote that we recently have, been submitted by outsourced third-party vendors for our claims billing and credentialing processing. We want to show you the research that we've done and what we've found and what can really help our clinic and how it can grow and, how this vendor can really help us with our processing. So let's go ahead and start. You know, the purpose of this is, as a desire to outsource all of our electronic claims filing and credentialing to a third-party vendor. It's really become such a time-consuming task. We've grown to be such a large clinic over the past 2 years. We've brought on 2 other chiropractors, physical therapists, and MDs. And it's really important for us to be able to have all of our doctors credentialed and all the insurances that we take. We want to be able to continue to take insurance for our patients to be able to afford to come here to our clinic and to have the same standard of care without having to worry about submitting claims and rejected claims coming back. It's also important to us that, that our vendors be HIPAA compliant. We hold ourselves to a high standard with our HIPAA and OSHA standards. And we also want our suppliers to be as well. We want to be socially responsible in that aspect. And we also want the purpose of easy access to EHR records and easy communication. We often know and see in vendors and third-party suppliers, communication is a huge factor that can often hinder process and production. So we want to be able to have easy communication throughout the entire time that we have them contracted. We're doing this because we want these claims to be submitted and we want the credentialing to be done in an effective, timely manner. Credentialing can often be a time-consuming task. Medicare alone can take up to 6 months for a doctor or physical therapist to be credentialed. So we want, a vendor that's going to have that done as soon as possible without having another task that they're focusing on. And, getting that third-party vendor will really allow us to be able to focus strictly on certain aspects. We also want, a backup of rejected claims. We want our vendors to be able to process these claims. Sometimes rejected claims can take hours on a phone to be able to, process and to get fixed. Oftentimes rejected claims can not only be the clinic's or the doctor's fault, it can also be the insurance company themselves. Unfortunately, you have to go through the same process for them to fix their own mistakes. Blue Cross Blue Shield, for example, when you call, you're only allowed to process 5 claim issues at a time before having to call back and be on hold another hour in order to process another 5 claims. This can often take up to 4 to 5 hours, I've seen within our billing office. And having that time freed up would allow us to be able to process more of our payments in a better function. And our reason for outsourcing, healthcare industry is consistently changing requirements on a daily basis, it seems anymore. And we want to be on the forefront. We want to know when Medicare has changed its rates and its procedure codes and how that's affected every other insurance carrier, because everything Medicare does affect every other insurance carrier and auto payments and information. This can often be a time-consuming task along with rejected claims. And we want, our vendors to supply us with that information. We want an easy process. There's also different standards of billing codes for different doctors. Chiropractors' codes are not the same as an MD's codes. Neither is an MD's code the same as a physical therapist codes. So there are so many different codes and so many different the Medicare rates for those codes, which make the rates for every other code. We want those to be available to us without having to spend that time to get them, and having the third-party vendor will allow us the time, to just get the information as it comes to us and to deal with that. We also, our forecasting has shown that we're going to grow another 35% annually in the next year over all 4 attending physicians, meaning every physician will grow by 35% in their practice. And this can mean additional hundreds to 1,000, adding patients, which means more in health insurance and more claims and rejected claims and, MRI authorizations. That can be very time consuming. And we want our time to be freed up to be able to be one-on-one with our patients, and continue to become HIPAA compliant, OSHA compliant, and continue to market and do all the things that we want to do as a clinic, which has allowed us to grow so quickly. But we will have specifications for these vendors. We want responsiveness, we want time compression, we want on-time delivery. If we're going to be outsourcing these objectives, we want them to come back in a timely manner. We want our lead time to be less than 30 days. You know, as far as claims, you have 30 days is the least amount of time you have to send out a claim. We want these claims sent out in 15 days. We want them to be billed and processed to the insurance carriers in a quicker fashion. We want our claim to send the bills every 7 days. We want the vendor to process the claims in electronic EDI claims in a 2-day processing time. You know, once these are submitted to the insurance company, you know, in the clearinghouse, it's often out of our hands at that moment. You know, we have to wait for those EOBs to come back to deal with them, which is fine. That's just a part of healthcare you can't often, you know, make go any faster. So the more we can cut down the lead time between us and our suppliers, our vendors, will make for a quicker processing. And once these claims have been received, we want them processed the same day. And we want them sent to the clinic, and we want our clinic to process them the same day. Our requirements for our vendors, you know, we want to hold them also true to ourselves. And there also will be, you know, liquidated damages for claims that are not, you know, submitted on time by our vendors, or not, you know, reimbursement isn't put in, or, you know, rejected claims aren't dealt with in the time that our contract states. You know, that the vendor will not only not be paid for that, but they'll also have to pay us for the time that they have wasted and that they have lagged for the service that we are trying to be able to provide it for. And, you know, just specifically, again, you know, the responsibilities of our third-party vendors, we want them to be able to, you know, upload EHR files submitted by the clinic in a timely manner. We want appropriate filing of claims to the correct insurance carriers, to the correct addresses, to the correct providers. We want following up when dealing with rejected claims in a timely manner, 24 to 48 hours. Why was that claim rejected? We want to know the reason. We want to know, do we need to provide you with more doctor's notes, diagnosis codes? Is it something we missed? Is it an insurance problem? We want easy communication and follow up on, here are the issues. Here's how, you know, what's the problem, how we're going to solve it. We'll contact you in 24 hours with the answer. That's the kind of follow-up we want, and that kind of communication that we want to maintain within our clinic and within our vendors as well. And just look at the required supply chain. We want a patient to the front office, to the billing office, down to the clearinghouse, and back to the billing office. Just a look of how the supply chain throughout this will work and will move, just as if it was material goods, and it is material goods. You know, the schedule for the contract, we want the contract start date to be June 1st, 2015. The term of the contract will be 2 years. We want enough time to analyze the data to see how this is affecting our business. Is it working? Is it supplying us with the appropriate needs that we want in a timely manner? Is it worth the cost? Which we believe it will be. It will be, as we expand, to be worth the cost and worth the time. We want, you know, the contract to be effective once HIPAA and OSHA standards are shown prevalent in vendor, and all bids are required by May 1st, and they're being completed. We also want, you know, the proposed bid that we have is outsourced to India, who have shown that they specialize in healthcare billing and coding and claims adjusting and credentialing. They have third-party certificate, HIPAA and OSHA standards required by them in every part of their corporation is hold to the same standard that we hold ourselves. Their reputation has shown reviews as being labeled as being one of the best data services on the web. And it has also provided our clinic with appropriate reports, analyzed data, as well as past communication evaluations of vendors. They've showed us how they can take our information, how quickly they can process it, that our lead time is viable and it is reliable and a realistic goal that we want to achieve that can help us and make this option an affordable one that makes sense. So we do recommend as a clinic, as we grow 35% annually and we continue to increase this over the next couple of years, that the time that is freed up by this third-party vendor, will be enough for our staff to allow them to grow into detail, to have more time for insurance verifications and physicians to interact with patients and marketing, to be able to grow our business to a greater height. And allow us to just be able to, spend the time with our patients and getting in contact with them more, and spending that time that used to be the good old days one-on-one, not having to worry about these claims and rejected claims and filing from credentialing. We can leave this up to a third-party vendor who will make our clinic continue to grow as we have continue to improve it on a daily basis. I thank you all for being here for today, and I hope that you take what we've presented to you, and you see the best effect that we see, and that supplying to a third-party vendor would be an absolute, great resource for us to have as a clinic. Thank you.